Yo, what up guys? Explosive Movement Patterns here, back again with yet another video. And today's video I want to talk about looking at your training system and your training methods overall and tweaking it and learning and just basically looking at your training methods overall, because I know for myself and a lot of other people, you get caught up in training a certain way within a certain doctrine, almost, and you're like, I have to follow this method. If I'm not doing this, if I'm not doing everything this certain way, then it's not going to help my performance. I'm going to mess up. And you can't get too caught up in following, a certain system, a certain method, and only doing that method, only relying on one certain aspect of training, only relying on this one viewpoint within your training, because ultimately what the best people are able to do when it comes to learning and training is they're able to incorporate what works for them within their training, right? Because you can't treat each athlete exactly the same. It just doesn't work, because not all athletes are the same. No athlete is the same as another athlete. So ultimately what you have to do is you have to take a step back and look at your training system. You have to think, what within my training is working for me? What isn't working for me? Because as Bruce Lee always said, he said, keep what is useful and take out what is useless. Now, that's not his, quote verbatim, but he was basically saying that what you need to do, what each individual needs to do, is to use what works for them and to take out what doesn't work for them or is just unnecessary for them to do. So, you need to look at yourself, or if you're training other athletes, you need to look at each individual athlete and you have to think what works for them. What type of training stimulus do they respond to? What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? How can we balance them out? How can we make them the most complete athlete? It might be, for me, a lot of it had to do with incorporating more volume and doing more cardio, while also correcting a lot of movement issues and a lot of technique issues. Because you need, when doing this, you need to look at all aspects of your training. You need to look at the volume. You need to look at the intensity. You need to look at, am I doing enough cardio like I was? And beyond that, you need to look at, what are issues with muscular imbalances? What are issues with incorrect movement patterns, incorrect technique, and flexibility issues? You need to look at every single facet and every single aspect of training to truly get a whole picture and think, all right, what do I need to do? What is working for me so I can keep it? What isn't working for me so I can discard it? And what could I potentially need to add in to correct the certain issues that I find? When thinking about this, I always think about an interview I heard with Vince Anderson. He's a sprints coach at Texas A&M University, and he talked about how, his training cycles change so much from year to year. It's never exactly the same, and sometimes, and it's from year to year it's never the same, but occasionally, it'll cycle around. It'll complete a cycle, and maybe like 15 years down the line, he'll have a training program that's the same or very similar to the one he had 15 years ago. And when I hear this, I think a lot about how people have to constantly tweak their training, have to constantly figure out what works for different groups of athletes, figure out what they need to incorporate within their training, what they need to get rid of in their training. Because you can't keep the same training methods, over and over and over and over. You can't have the exact same things over and over and over and over for yourself or for any other athlete, because ultimately, you're not going to get the gains that that you can, or that your body is capable of achieving. You need to constantly be tweaking, constantly be looking at it and thinking, all right, what's working for me? What type of training stimulus do I respond well to? And what type of training stimulus do I need to work on? And this is really important, because when you take, a holistic view of your training, when you take this complete approach to understanding what you need to improve upon, what your strengths are at, what your weaknesses are, you're really able to focus in on the certain aspects that you need to improve on. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to become a more complete athlete. It allows you to solve a lot of injury problems. It allows you to break through plateaus and achieve new levels of athleticism, whether your goals are over athleticism, speed, quickness, strength, leaping ability. It doesn't matter, because when you're looking at your training for whatever sport, for whatever thing that you do, you need to take a holistic view. You need to think, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? If you don't understand why you're doing certain methods within your training, you need to get rid of it, or at least understand why you're doing it in the first place. Because when it comes down to training, you have to take a complete view, and you have to think, all right, what is going to work? What is going to work for me? Or if you're training other athletes, what is going to work for these athletes? You need to look at training as a whole, and you need to think, okay, what can I do to improve upon it? What can I do to make it the perfect training system? Because you never want to get too caught up in a closed-minded system where you think, all right, what I have here is perfect. I will never need to change this. Because ultimately, when it comes down to training and in life in general, you need to have an open mind so you can constantly tweak, constantly rearrange, and constantly change for the better what your training system is, because that allows you to become the most complete athlete overall. It is something that has helped me and will continue to help me, and I hope it's something that you will think about in the future. So this has been Explosive Movement Patterns, signing off. See you guys later. Peace.